There we go. So, welcome everybody. I just want to share with you this is our what we're doing today. Thank you all, first of all, for showing up, either live or watching the recorded version of this. And here we go. Here's our little what we're talking about. There are really five major points to setting a goal. But before I jump into that, I do want to say, you always want to find a balance in life. In fact, this afternoon, even I was listening to a guy I enjoy listening to called Simon Sinek, who was talking about the importance of friends. And I think it's important to have a balance in just not just sleeping and eating and exercising, but friendship also, and not just working toward a goal or achieving or whatever. But to specify what we're going to be talking about today is really goal setting. That's the whole gist of today's discussion. So let's get back to our little board here. And in order to begin to even conceive a positive goal, in order to be able to even just think about it, you really, really need to have a focus on gratitude. Be grateful for something. We just had Thanksgiving. Be thankful and grateful that you had food to eat. Be thankful you have a roof over your head. Whether you have a job or not, be thankful that you're still alive. Whatever it is, find some gratitude. Be grateful for something. If you're homeless, be thankful you have a blanket or a shelter or some place to just consider your own plot of land. Um, Find some reason to be grateful. I find all successful people, it begins with gratitude. It never begins with anger or hate or I wish I had this. It starts with gratitude. And then dream big. I'm reminded of a woman, Rose, probably the best story about this one I ever heard. And I was kind of I experienced it firsthand. Um, Rose had done a couple marathons with the LA Roadrunners, and she was helping me out in Griffith Park with our then Griffith Park group that was formerly USA Marathon Training. She was helping out at a water table. She just volunteered to help out at a water table, and I was forever thankful, as I am with all of our water table people. But I saw her, all the runners had run past her water table, and I was driving over to her on the street to pick up all the stuff, as I always do. And I saw her sitting on the side of the road, extremely contemplative, and I wasn't sure whether she was depressed or what was wrong, or, I had never seen her sitting down. I always saw her running or walking around or whatever and engaging other people. And she was all alone sitting on a curb. And I said, "Well, how you doing?" And I wasn't sure what I was going to get in return. And she said, I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Oh yeah, I'm okay." I said, what's going on?" And she said, "Oh, nothing." I said, "Well, what are you thinking about?" And she said, because I knew there was something going on. And she said, "I'm just thinking about it." And I said, about what?" And she said, "Well, I went to college." I said, "Yeah, that's great." And she said, "I'm the first person to ever go to college in my entire family." And she said, "And I'm thinking about going to med school," which is several years of studies, 6+ years of studies and residency and all that. And I said, "That's great." I had the vantage point of from my growing up, there were a bunch of people that went to med school or or law school or whatever that I knew or I was surrounded by or whatever, friends, family, whatever, you know, I got lucky in that sense. But she had no vision of anyone in her family that had done this, you know. Well, and she had realized that, hey, I can do a marathon, you know, maybe there's more to this world that I can achieve, you know. And she was dreaming real big. For her, that was dreaming big. Um, for me and my experience, maybe it was just reasonable. Like I said, grew up with all these, I was fortunate to grow up with those kind of role models around me, you know. And so the moral of the story is the end result is for the last probably about 15 years or so, she has been a full-fledged medical doctor. She did it. She went to med school. So the point being is dream big. That's number two on the list here. You know, running a marathon can help you with that because physically, you know, people start thinking about things differently after they've done a marathon. I honestly don't know any marathoner, and I mean this in the most positive sense. I don't know any marathoner who has not been told, you're crazy, right? But you know something, I mean, statistics, scientific study indicates we're healthier, less risk of dying, less risk of severe illness like cancer. So if we're crazy and we have all these health benefits, hey, I'm all for it. But, you know, there is something about doing a marathon that people think, you know, exercising, you know, 3 hours a week is considered a monumental leap in terms of greater health and longevity. What we do twice that, 6, 7 hours a week, is even more monumental in terms of health and all of that. So what we do is extraordinary, healthy. But people, for some weird reason, probably because two-thirds of the population don't exercise regularly, probably because 40% of the population are obese, and horribly ill health, and not just because of weight, we are viewed as crazy. Crazy meaning extremely different and good. But that's unique. That enables us to start dreaming big because we are already different, right? We're way above or way different. I don't want to say above or below. We're way different from the norm. So that's one of the benefits from marathoning. But to create a goal, number two, dream big. Now, when you're thinking of a goal, don't create a negative goal, right? Don't use the word not, can't, I can't do that. I am not going to do this, and for a goal, right? Here's a perfect example. I will not come in last place, right? I know people that have come up with this goal, and it's a negative goal because here's what happens. Your subconscious brain doesn't really hear the word not or can't or whatever. And all you hear is, I am going to come in last place, right? So it becomes a fear. Now, from that fear, you have somebody run past you and you immediately think, damn, that person passed me by. And you think, oh my God, I'm going to come in last. So what happens? You speed up. You speed up. What happens? Your glycogen levels start to deplete quicker. What happens when your glycogen levels start to deplete quicker, many miles down the road, is you hit the wall. What happens when you hit the wall? You're basically walking slowly, and I'm not talking like power walking, you know, I'm talking about burned out walking. So, what can happen when you create a goal that's, I will not come in last? Well, you burn out, you just might come in last. Got the picture? So don't create a negative goal that uses the words not or can't or whatever. Find a positive goal, find a positive affirmation, something you really, really want to do. People say it's something you have a passion for. It doesn't even need to be something you have a passion for. Something you want to achieve that will enable some part of your life to be fulfilled in a different way. For example, I want to have more friends. I want to spend more time with my friends and cultivating more friends. This lecture I heard the other day, they suggested that people who don't have friends that stay at home in their parents' basement, who are stuck because society, for whatever reason, has not enabled them to go to college or not enabled them to get a job or not enabled them to get out to where a place is where they can meet friends, and they're kind of stuck. They tend to become angry people. They get on social media. They start creating falsehoods and they start thinking in terms of the government is out to get them and conspiracy theories and all these things that the solution for those problems would be to enable these people to get friends. Well, how do you do that? Well, that's rather complicated. And that is becoming more and more of a societal issue amongst 20 somethings, to be truthful, but having nothing to do with goal setting. So, when you create a goal, create three different goals. Create a pie in the sky goal. I got this from a guy named Mark Allen, who won Kona Ironman like 6 times, and he's become a great triathlon coach, a brilliant guy. At any rate, create three goals. Create a pie in the sky goal, like I will win the LA Marathon. Okay. Create a middle goal. Well, I will win my age group. And then create an easy, more achievable goal. I will finish the LA Marathon. One way or another, if I'm crawling to the finish line, I will finish this thing, right? And the thing if you create a goal that's really up there and you don't succeed and you see someone pass you by, meaning you're not going to win the LA Marathon and you're burning out, and they're going on the downhill and you're still going on the uphill or whatever, um, you don't want to like give up and say, all right, that's it, I give up. What the heck? I'm done. Well, no, you want another goal. The middle goal, I will win my age group. Well, what happens when you see people in your age group who you know run past you and you're burning out and all right, I'm not going to win my age group. You don't want to give up. You still want to have some kind of a victory. Find an easier, more achievable goal like I will finish, right? So when you get to the finish line, you can have a congratulatory moment because it's really, really important. After all that time, after all that training, you want to have a victory. You want to set yourself up to win something, right? To achieve a goal of some kind. Some of the happiest people I know in the world really have a goal. Some of the most miserable people in the world are people who have no goal. They're just kind of walking through life, right? Yes, there are all these other things that are important to have as a balance, friends and health and family and all that, sleep. But having a goal can really be an exciting thing to live for. Um, so have an achievable goal that you know you're going to do, so you will be able to have that celebratory moment at the finish line. I see a lot of people across. I have the honor every year of standing at the finish line of the LA Marathon with a few other employees of the LA Marathon, and we watch everyone cross that finish line. And I see the most extremes of emotion. I was there for 14 hours on the clock last year, and there were still people coming in. You want to talk about I will not be last. There were still people coming in at 14 hours. Okay. So, I don't know anyone in our training program who's going to come in 14 hours. And there was a slow stream but steady stream of people still coming in at 14 hours. Regardless, I see a lot of people elated and happy and tearful because they achieved something they never could have imagined. I hear people laughing hysterically because they did this. It's so unbelievable. And I also see people looking at their watches and cursing in anger and rage. And I think, you know something? You need an achievable goal. Everyone needs to feel that elation, that celebratory moment of crossing the finish line. You've completed a goal. Now, whether you want to achieve a greater goal, a faster time, a more easier marathon, take more pictures with your friends on the marathon, whatever it is, you know. Um, Create something where you can have a celebratory moment at the finish line. And then, you know, give it all you've got to achieve this thing, whatever it is, you know, put in the time. I've always said the greater the volume, the greater the fitness. And the greater the fitness, the faster you will get. And there's some great truth to that. Pro athletes who want to win the LA Marathon put in upwards of 140 miles a week in miles of training. Now, for us age group athletes who compete for our age group, most of us would be injured if we even attempted 100, let alone 140 miles a week. Only a handful of people could really do well with 100 miles a week, let alone 90, 80 miles a week. That's a lot of mileage each week, especially if you have a job or family, whatever. That's what pro athletes have the ability to do. That's their job. But they also recover quick enough so they can do that kind of volume and recover to be able to do more volume the next day, right? It's roughly a 6, 7 day a week job training for a marathon for a pro athlete. But give it all you've got within reason, I should write, to achieve your goal. And then when accomplished, when you've achieved that goal, when you've crossed, I mean, if it's your first marathon, they always say, just finish your first marathon. There are so many things you need to learn about your own body and what your body needs, different from everyone else's body who's on that marathon. You may finish with a lot of people at your ability level, and you needed more sodium, you needed more carbohydrate, you needed more hydration than they did, you sweat more than they do. Whatever it is, you may do better in hot temperatures than they do. They do better in cold temperatures or vice versa. Um, Finish your first marathon, make that the goal of your first. You know, winning the LA Marathon in your first marathon, yeah, you know, that's a big leap. If you're not running in group zero, even then, I just don't see it. Regardless, once you've achieved a goal, I'll tell you a story. There was this guy. This is my mom was an administrator of a mental health clinic, and she was very successful and building this tiny little clinic up to this huge clinic. And that was my mom. Anyway, a fellow coworker comes up to her and says, I have just, I have the great family. I love my wife. I love my kids. I live in a house bigger than I ever imagined. I have a great job. I have a great income, more than I've ever imagined I would ever make in my lifetime. I'm doing great. And I am so miserable. I've achieved every goal, he said to my mom. And my mom immediately said to him, well, find a new goal. And he said, that's brilliant. I never thought of that. The problem for my mom is the guy then realized he wanted my mom's job, which never panned out. But um, he developed some new motivation. He was happy again. Find a new goal. Because as I say, some of the happiest people in the world are people with a goal. I knew a guy who owned a steel mill, And I overheard this conversation. He owned a steel mill. He was so rich that he had a winning racehorse, right? The Kentucky Derby kind of racehorse. That's where his racehorse raced those races. And I overheard him say that the happiest times of his life were when he was really struggling and really didn't have very much. And he was really kind of going up the ladder to build his dream. And that was a steel mill. Yeah, he owned a steel mill. Sad thing is he lost his steel mill and died a few short years after that, which was tragic. But the happiest times in his life were when he had a goal and he was kind of climbing the ladder to success. And I see that with a lot of people as well. Your goal can be doing a second marathon, maybe faster, maybe doing an ultra, maybe doing something a little longer, maybe becoming a pace leader and helping others achieve their goals as I did. Um, but find a new goal. Once you've accomplished it, you may find within a few days, suddenly you become depressed. All these hours that you put in training for this marathon, you did it. You had that elation, you had that success, you had that moment of achievement, of celebration at the finish line with your friends. You went out to dinner and celebrated. You wore your medal. A week later, to the LA Running Club in Santa Monica, medal run or medal walk, or in Griffith Park, the USA Marathon Training medal run or medal walk, and the potlucks that followed. And Balboa Park will do the same thing, a medal run. A week after the LA Marathon finish, we will do a little medal run and a massive potluck. Um, After all that, you may find yourself depressed because suddenly all that work you were doing is it's done. There's nothing left. What do I do now? Well, find another goal and you will be motivated and feeling on the road to accomplishment yet again. You'll have reason to get out the door. I've always said that there was this Nike thing that said, just do it. I thought that was the stupidest thing. Yes, I know I'm Asics, I'm sorry, but that was the stupidest motivator I've ever heard in my life. Just do it. And the reason is like, just do it. Why? Why do I want to just do this thing? Because people who have purpose, who have enormous motivation, if you have purpose, if you have a why, find a why, create a goal. More importantly than that is the next slide I'm going to show you. But before I get to that next slide, think of a why. Because if you have a why, if you have a goal, you will have reason to get out the door in the rain and the cold and the inclement weather. You will have a reason to get up and get out the door to meet your friends early in the morning or late at night, or run on a treadmill at the gym when it's dark outside and then drive home and get to bed. You will have motivation to overcome whatever obstacle lies in your way when you have a goal, when you have that reason, when you have that why. But just do it? What's the point? I don't know. Anyway, next up is a big one. And that is, here you go, bam, the whole slide. Write your goal down. Write it down on a piece of paper, put it on your refrigerator, get one of those free one sheets from the LA Marathon at the Expo for 2025. Put it on a wall or your refrigerator because you did the 2025 to remind you, I'm going to do the 2026. And have that poster or whatever it is, that handwritten note somewhere, and write on that poster, I will do 26. Write it down and post it somewhere where you can see it on your refrigerator, on a wall, whatever. Yes, social media is a great place, but you don't need to broadcast it to the entire planet, although that helps. It's great to have people like your pace group and your friends at your pace group to hold you accountable to continue your training. You know, if you're falling off the back and people ask you, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" You say, "Well, I haven't been training." Well, okay, they'll help hold you accountable or help motivate you. But write your goal down. Tell friends, but more importantly, write it down. I heard a statistic years ago that suggested, I think it's about, if I recall correctly, 80% of people who create a goal never achieve it. 80% don't achieve their goal unless they write it down first, right? That's huge. So write your goal down and you will have a much greater chance of achieving your goal rather than just thinking it in your head. And what is it, 80% or so will not achieve. Um, and enjoy that goal, enjoy that motivation, whatever it is. Be it I'm going to become a doctor, a medical doctor, or and I'm going to run an ultra, or maybe just your first marathon. Enjoy that goal and celebrate the victory. And with that, I say to all of you, do not look at where you are today and ask why. Look to the future and all the possibilities that lie therein and say, why not? Create a goal and have fun and enjoy that goal. And I thank you all for chiming in today. I will see you all at the finish line of the 2025 LA Marathon, the 40th running of that race and walking and run walking of the LA Marathon. It's going to be exciting. Um, I'm anticipating 26,000 people will sign up as they did last year. And almost all those people will show up at the starting line. I think, there's always, every race has a dropout rate, a percentage. I'm guessing there'll probably be about 22,000 people on the starting line again this year. That's huge. And with that, for those of you watching the replay, I say thank you and good night for watching the replay. For those of you on live, I'm going to turn off the recording and we'll continue this live. But for those watching the recording, again, thanks everybody. And I bid you a good night. And wait a minute. And